All right. Greetings. My name is Amber Rose Stahl, and for those of you who may be new to me and watching this recording, I am a women's empowerment mentor, a visionary artist, and a creative guide. So I assist women in tapping into their creativity, accessing their gifts, and bringing that medicine out into the world. One of the ways that I do that is with food. And so our conversation today that I'm going to have with Sorrel May, who will introduce herself in just a moment, Sorrel May Florence, our conversation is around nourishment and creating food and the energy we put into it. And we're just going to have a chat about it and share that with you. So Sorrel, tell us a bit about what you do.
Laurel, I like that.
I know, it just came out.
I think for both of us, we are Renaissance women. You know, we kind of we have this core that's a certain way, and it's about love, and it's about joy, and it's about expression, and then we have like this toe belt, which I don't know. For me today, it's ruffles, but you know, like whatever the tools are. I have a harp. I have, I have a candle that's sizzling.
I have my candles too. The fire.
Oh, yeah, we are really like on this same vibe today. It's quite funny, but yeah. So I'm a Renaissance woman, and I'm hungry, like to always learn more. Anything with the crafts and arts and music, and when I kind of flow into new things, and it might go from being a multi-instrumentalist to an energy healer, but now, like at my age, I kind of just dip into stuff, through that I've like gathered through my life. Now I have like this sort of treasure chest, and depending on, it's a type of channeling, I suppose, but depending on anything, like every second, it's like I dip into my treasure chest.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I know alchemy, some people get really official and say it's metals and things, but alchemy is just like combining a lot of resources and different aspects. So like, I guess I'm a Renaissance woman alchemist. I don't know.
I love that. I love that. And you to me, if I may just speak in terms of what I see in you and the work that I see you share in the world, you come across to me as such a fairy priestess and such a witchy woman. And I love that, when you were talking about alchemy, you talk about how some people get real specific. But what I pick up from you, and I think a way that we can really relate to one another, is we are the kind of people in our own magic that we understand the importance of intuitively feeling into what we create and being in the moment and tuning into what it is that's called for in this particular potion or creation or meal or whatever it is that we're creating. And I think you and I have a lot in common in that regard. And so I think it's really beautiful that we're having this conversation. And I love the way that this conversation kind of happened and is going to intuitively flow. Sorrel actually reached out to me and wanted to put something together, and let's talk about food and the work that I've done in the past with food, which has such a similar vein to a lot of Sorrel's work as well. And so it's just our conversation in this video that we're making is coming together very much in the way that you and I love to create.
And we actually, like, we're doing like this fun, like almost like a full circle thing, because we met a couple years ago,
mm-hmm.
And we were in this process of really just like embracing the stuff we knew about ourselves, like
yes.
kind of going, it's time,
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and now but it's time for both of us, and we're
yes.
doing it now.
Yes. It's beautiful, beautiful. Well, I'm inspired, as I know that we originally chose to come together to talk about the way that we create food and the energy we put into it. I'm inspired to share a little bit about my own journey with that, and then maybe you can share some of yours as well, and we'll just go from there. All right. So my journey with nourishment, as I often call it, rather than just food. One of the reasons I use the word nourishment more than I use the word food is because, to me, the food that I create, I am very much understanding that it's more than just the physical substance of the thing, that the energy behind it is so important, and that becomes a part of our energy and what nourishes us. So the way that I create food, I have an understanding that I'm not just working to feed the person's body, that I'm working to feed them on all levels. And one of the ways that I came to this partly was through some of the medicine of my mother, who interestingly enough, her maiden name is McGowan. So she's got the Irish background, and Sorrel's Irish. But my mother taught me that it was very important, the energy that we have when we're preparing food. And she taught me that if we're happy and we're thinking good, loving thoughts about the people that we're making the food for, then not only is the food taste better, but they feel better when they eat it, and they're better able to utilize it. And she taught me that in a very simple way, but it was something that I never forgot. She also taught me to never be in the kitchen when I was upset. If she was making a meal and I came in the kitchen and I was upset, she would ask me to go somewhere else while she was cooking.
Wow,
And
that's awesome.
what?
That's just awesome.
Yes. And so she really gave me that root of my understanding about energetics and food right there. And it's something that I never forgot and that I always carried forward. And started working in restaurants first, like washing dishes and stuff, when I was 14. But before long, I was in the kitchen because I had a knack for it, you know? And I had been cooking for several years. That was my primary work when I was younger. And I always would get feedback that people just felt so good eating my food, the energy of, and you can tell my food's made with love. I think people would tell me things like that, which always felt good. But then, let's see, it was probably a little over about a decade ago, I had the opportunity to make a meal for the spiritual teacher. And he was so taken aback, and he said, you do something that only one other person that I've ever had the pleasure of eating their food does. And he said, I can taste the love in your food. Like, the energy that you've put into your food is so incredibly evident. And that's not something that he had experienced on that level, except for one other person that he'd been around. And so he actually asked me to come live with him. And it really changed the course of my life. My husband and I, well, my boyfriend at the time, we came and lived with him. And my boyfriend became his assistant in office work. And I became his personal chef. And then we put on retreats with him. We toured the country with him. It was quite an amazing experience. And because I was making meals for these classes, these spiritual classes that he was doing, it really helped me, and he helped me through his guidance to tune in deeper to my natural skill set. And what I discovered was that this deep spiritual work that these people were doing in these classes, sometimes on different days, they would need different things. They would be calling for different things. Sometimes they needed more comfort. Sometimes they needed more support, or to really feel like held by the Mama Earth, or to really feel empowered. And not only would I choose actual foods for that purpose, like a hearty chili, or a spring fresh salad, you know, whatever it was that would on a physical level assist them with that. But I would tune in and put my energy into it, and even call on angels and fairies and elemental beings to assist me. And at some point, even, I'll never forget this. I want to put this into a book or something. But at some point, I was stirring a pot of stew, and a friend of mine said, "Tell me what you're doing," because I'd get help in the kitchen. She said, "What is it you're doing? You're so intent." And the words that came out of me is, "I am stirrishment," which is, you know, a made up word, but what I meant to say was, I am stirring in nourishment, like consciously stirring in the intent of nourishment. But I have never forgotten I am stirrishment from that experience. So anyways, I'm kind of rambling on because I have so much to share in my story, but please, you know, jump in.
Oh, I'm just listening, just enjoying, and I relate to so much of that. It's I feel like, you know, you just, when you open your heart and you want the truth, you get it, and there's different processes of getting there, but you know, and the stories vary, but then you kind of come to the same center of understanding. So for me, it's very similar. Like, but I definitely didn't have a mother that did things like yours did. Now, when I was really, really young, like up until maybe 6 years old, we were really poor, and you know, my mom, she's like kind of a hillbilly, and you know, so we were like poor hillbillies in Ohio, and don't tell anyone, even though everyone's gonna see this.
I actually grew up quite poor and simply too. We could discuss that more. Yep, go ahead. I did. My mom made all our meals on a wood cook stove, and we had an outhouse and everything in the 80s, which is unheard of.
That's it. It's like those were the years when that I had to come back to you know, to embrace, because she would you know, put the water in the flour, and she would you know, she would make a dough ball, roll it out with a rolling pin, and cut noodles. Then she dropped the noodles in boiling water, and you know, we had a garden, and
us too.
Yeah, so you know, it was when my dad got a better job then that, you know, we went to like middle class or something, and then it became all cans, you know, like canned green beans and canned corn, and you know, packaged just the bubble white bread, and just, you know, like we thought that we like moved up the scale, like, oh, we're middle class, but you know, but I remember getting sick at that point, you know, because I was a really, really healthy child, like up until we got middle class, you know. I remember running through the meadows, and I remember the feelings too, like, you know, I remember you know, butterflies and trees talking to me, and you know, there was a tree, I called it the snake tree, even though I never saw a snake. It was like, that was a snake tree. And everybody knew, my whole family knew that was a snake tree. They didn't know why. You know, and I said, don't go near the snake tree. So I, like, even then I knew that there was something there, something spiritual about that tree, like it was a vortex or something. So by eating that really nutritious food as a poor little girl, you know, poor as in no money, but you know, it enhanced my psychic abilities and my openness to receive through nature. And then once we became middle class, it's almost like I forget a lot of that time of my life. Like I just remember being sick a lot, and throwing up a lot, and being very moody and crying a lot, and you know, and then there was a lot of the force feeding, you know, like these are the food groups, you can't have your dessert until you have this, and I remember not being allowed to get up from the table because like we had to eat what was on our plate,
Yes,
even if
I experienced that
our
one.
taste didn't agree with. So yeah, so there were a lot of times that I would spend like maybe 2 hours staring at my plate, and then I became very clever, and I would start brushing it under the hutch. We had a hutch with a tiny little space between the floor and the piece of wood, and I would start scraping my fingers underneath the hutch, and it got to the point where it started to smell, and and then I think my mom found it, and so I got in big trouble. So then the next time she tried to force feed me, I said I'd rather eat cat food. And of course, the cats got Friskies, that crappy food. So, I got a big bowl of cat food on the table in front of me.
Oh no.
And I sat there and I ate that cat food, and I said I'd rather eat this cat food than what's on my plate. But but I had all those memories, and I feel like all of that is part of this whole journey too.
Well, what's fascinating, Sorrel, and pardon me if I'm interrupting you, but I didn't know, and I love now understanding that you and I both grew up. It could be called poor. Yeah, there wasn't much money, but it was also really, really simple, and it was much more able to be connected with nature. And I didn't always appreciate as a child. I knew that we were poor. That my parents moved from Southern California to the mountains because they didn't want to be a part of the mainstream. They wanted to live a much simpler lifestyle, but they ended up struggling too financially. But I grew up without television, and I grew up with meals on a wood cook stove and mom rolling the dough and all of these things that so many people of my generation, so many of my peers didn't experience. And I really think that part of us being able to have that experience helped us to be able to stay more connected. And like you, when we started eating more normal food, and then I went to boarding school for a while too, and a lot of things were microwaved and all of this stuff, I started getting ear infections and being ill a lot. And I also remember when we were young drinking raw milk, and then when I started drinking processed milk, it made me sick. So interesting things like that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I remember feeling really inadequate, like going to school, and I'd have a lunch box, and all my friends would have paper bags, and they'd have the balloon bread and the bologna sandwiches and the crisps and sodas, and they'd have all these, fancy packaged foods, and they had those you peel the plastic off, and you could make those little sandwiches, with crackers and.
Oh yeah, little Lunchable type things. Yeah.
Lunchables. That's what it was, Lunchables. And me, I'd get out of my lunchbox, my tin lunchbox. I'd have a canister of warm soup from the night before, homemade vegetable soup or something. Or
Yep.
tomatoes. And then I'd have, I think my mom probably wrapped it in tin foil or something, like a sandwich, like a proper sandwich with whole wheat bread or bread she baked, So
Right.
I remember all the kids making fun of me and me like trying to kind of hide my lunch from the kids, but I was actually probably the healthiest one there.
Yes.
So I feel lucky too, because I had that to come back full circle to those memories. If I hadn't had that, I don't know if I could have gone
right.
full circle.
If I had television when I was a child, I probably wouldn't have been out in the woods building fairy houses and talking to elemental beings and things that were hard for me to even, I couldn't really communicate to any of my peers about as a child, because they would just think it was nonsense and you know, imagination and all of this. But what's fascinating is now that I have grown, all of these things, all these intuitive insights on all these tuning into the energies and all this is now the medicine that is being called forward from me, that other people are asking for me to show them things that they didn't have the opportunity to tune into when they were little. So I love knowing that we have some common history there. It's beautiful.
Very common. Yeah, I mean, we're very similar in that way. So, for me, it was then getting the migraines, you know, the migraines.
And I've had that too. Mm-hmm.
I was like, I'm going to fix these, and I tried the medicines, and they made me sick, and I just want to do this. So for me, it was I was introduced to macrobiotics in New York City at a couple of the. I got on this thing where I was going out to eat all the time. I didn't trust my own cooking. And I was out at restaurants, and I did loads of experimenting with, you know, energies of places, and then I found this place, a macrobiotic restaurant, and I always felt good. I felt something different about the food, and everybody was always just, they seemed happy, and so I started talking. They were really eager to share information, so you know, we talked a lot, and that's when they began to talk about energy, and I went through a big rebellious stage, you know, because this was truth, and I was like needing it, but I wasn't ready. I knew it would be a big step, like if I these concepts, it was going to change my whole life, you know. I would never eat the same again, and I would not be like, you know, it would change my social life, and change everything, like you know, the friends you have and the places you go, and so I rebelled a little, and I tried to scare a lot of those people away, but they were so balanced, and you know, so I learned about energy and all that, you know, about not ever being angry or sad when you're working with food,
right?
If other people are going to eat it. So I learned the same philosophies, but it was through macrobiotics. But then it became too strict, you know. I felt like I found truth, but in that truth, I was also expanding in other ways. So I became really kind of obsessed with essential oils, and the macrobiotics are like, they don't like fragrance, you know, so very, very pure, very natural. So I remember getting in trouble, you know, for wearing essential oils, you know, when I was in a macrobiotic community. And that was sort of my goal, that it was time to move on. So then I went on to Ayurvedic, you know, because they love smells. So they had similar philosophy, but now they're very colorful and spicy and flamboyant, you know. So now I get to use all the turmeric and you know, spicy stuff, and wear lots of essential oils and reds and orange colors, and you know, so it's been like that too. It's been like a process for me. And then Chinese medicine, and then it went into normal, just herbs, you know, herbal Western herbology, and then I got into plant foraging, and And so now it's just on this whole, I don't even know where it is. It's,
It's fun how we come full circle in so many ways, because you mentioned plant foraging, and I immediately go back to you being a kid playing under the snake tree, right? And for me, I was very blessed by my father, and that my father gifted me with both Native American spirituality and Eastern Indian culture. He's been a follower of Meher Baba since the 70s. So I got to go to India with him and experience, those spices and stuff that you talk about, which definitely had an influence on my cooking style. I love to make curries. But I went through in my own journey, had a lot of health problems for a while as a kid. My gut, my belly was just really messed up from antibiotics, from having ear infections, from the diet I was eating. And I also found that, I think it's partly my DNA and my chemistry, and partly that when I was little, I was given such a natural type diet that I am so very sensitive to additives and preservatives and things like that. I started having migraines when I was young, very young. One of the things I figured out is that I couldn't really go out to eat very well, especially if I got like MSG. That made me horribly sick, migraines for days. And then like lunch meats, I couldn't really do lunch meats because the nitrates and things would give me issues. And I didn't really know what a lot of it was when I was young. Again, I'm grateful that my father, my parents both were into natural, herbal type medicines. They came from Southern California, which helps. So they had that more of an open-minded consciousness to natural remedies. But they took me to special doctors and did blood tests, special tests to find out what was wrong with me because I was so sick all the time. So I got really interested in nutrition from an early age, but then had to figure out all the things that don't work for me too. And I went through the I didn't really focus on macrobiotic, but I went through a raw food stage for a while. And when I was working for the man that was the spiritual teacher that I made meals for, we would do largely raw vegan meals. And what's interesting is that there's so much benefit to that at certain times for certain reasons, and it can be the ideal thing for certain people. I found that it helped me in certain ways and it hindered me in other ways. And then coming through that was when, as an adult, I started to get really bad migraines, like as I was coming out the other side of doing the raw vegan thing. And I found that I ended up going to it's like a natural hospital in Atlanta, like a naturopathic hospital. It's amazing. And my father helped me go there. And I found out that I was extremely deficient in saturated fats. And so it's just been an interesting journey finding out what really supports my body in thriving. And I think that we're all unique, and I think that we so often we get in trouble when we think that we have to follow some other plan that someone has created as the way that we're supposed to do things, because we're all so unique,
That's something we definitely should talk about. Like I was saying, how I knew when I was 11 years old that food on my plate was not working for me. And I was so sure about it that I refused to put it in my mouth, and I was punished for it.
Mm-hmm.
I was told I had to sit there for 2 hours, to the point that I would hide it under the hutch or ask for cat food.
Yeah.
And I think that, and that it still kind of bothers me that, when I hear people very, matter-of-factly saying that this diet applies to all people, and I feel like there's so many things. I mean, and that is actually a little bit of a macrobiotic concept too, is that every day you evaluate yourself and you
Mm-hmm.
need, but it's like our DNA is so old, it's so ancient. So we hold the memory of the full story from the beginning of when, like our, I don't know.
Yeah, we all go back to native peoples, ancient cultures. Absolutely. Yeah.
And then, and that's why definitely, herbs and plants, I think, work for everybody, because that was the way it always was. But a lot of my friends, they believe that all of us, we need meat and we need dairy, and I find that I need it sometimes, but most of the time I don't. And
Right.
I'm a real weirdo. Like my journey has taken me to the point where I make fairy food now. Like fairy food is what I call it.
Love that.
And it's basically I pack, like, I actually brought some out here. So this is like me. Like this is what I do best on.
Tell me a bit about what you have here. What is this? What's in it?
Well, this is pure magical alchemy. So like I put I don't know if you can see symbols. So it even goes down to the symbols. Like
I can't really see the symbols, but I love knowing that you put symbols on there.
So this one has an Egyptian. Where's the camera? Am I ruining the video here?
No, you're not. But in the lighting, I don't think we'll really see the symbols. But I love that you're telling us. There's an Egyptian one. Yeah.
Well, I used to kind of set out thinking what symbol, but now I actually no, I don't have it with me, but I use a stick to draw my symbols.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I find them all, I don't cut them into points. I find sticks with point already there. It's like they were meant to be a tool. Mm-hmm. And then and I use the stick to carve my symbols. And now I create the symbol as I'm carving it. And I have to stab it. You can't just, dig at it. Like you have to do like little pokes to make the design. But like I have an Egyptian eye. I have some triangle. There's an hourglass symbol. But they all vary, each one. And
so what kind of ingredients, like herbs, nuts, seeds?
Yeah, well, I will have a base, so just as any kind of like if you're making like a massage oil, or you have your base, like you have your
sure
thing that carries it. So it's almost similar to all the things I do, like perfumeries like that, and everything, like you have to have sort of your carrier. So I use certain foods as my carrier. So like it could be that you're making bread, or you're making a cake, or you're making a pudding, or something, but you choose what is your carrier.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then from that you build on the alchemy of it. So I know like that I need certain vitamins, and I need magnesium, and I need iron, and I things I'm not getting by not eating meat or whatever, so with just my journey of learning about different plants, and I know which ones I can get those things from, they get tossed into the batter.
Absolutely. That makes perfect sense. No, I mean, I cook a lot in the same way. I don't use herbs as much as you do, although I love incorporating herbs wherever I can, especially the wild edibles in the environment that I'm in. But I absolutely, you know, like when I'm baking, for example, and I only bake gluten-free because my body just doesn't tolerate wheat currently. I think it's the current culture of the wheat that's produced. But I have a basic understanding of the chemistry of what makes a muffin. So I have my base, and then it's like, ooh, this spice feels good. And how much am I going to use? It's not really about measuring it. It's about intuitively feeling the right amount that goes in, you know? So it's like making a potion in that way.
It is a potion making.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, like you're more of a people person than I am. Like you love to have a lot of people around you.
I'm actually more of an introvert than you might think, but.
Really?
So I have a Sagittarius rising. My rising sign is Sagittarius, so I come across very extroverted, but in reality, it's much easier for me to be that way in this way where I'm communicating through the internet, and I have a little bit of a filter. It is not as easy for me in person to be real outgoing. Because it's my nature is definitely more introverted than I know I come across.
But I was just looking at the different ways between how you cook and how I cook.
Yes.
So like mine are kind of compact little whoosh, you know,
yeah.
like it goes bam, you know, there's the effect. Sort of like a direct, very direct to the point sort of.
Yeah, concentrated medicine.
Consolidated job done, you know, and from the photos I've seen of what you make, they're more like sharing, you know, like sharing with your family, and you kind of have this widening of this experience where you get to share it.
Absolutely. There's definitely an intent for me in expanding, the energy being an expansion, and it not only nourishing the person that I'm giving it to, but helping them nourish the people that they're connecting with. So I definitely have a kind of a global view in my energy of the things that I create. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what you do, like the foods you make, I think you can get that more out there than what, you know, like for me it's just here, have a cookie. Like mine's more sneaky.
Yeah, it's like this whole huge mass of awesome magic concentrated into this little tablet almost. I love it.
Right, but like me, it's sneaky. Like here, have a cookie, and I'm kind of like watching, ha ha ha, I know it's gonna happen.
It's so cute.
And then, but like for me, I've got to sneak it. Whereas you kind of, your food is like people like will run to it. Like, oh my gosh, like I saw your cake, your what was it, a blueberry with goat.
Oh yeah, that image from that. It was like a blueberry pie that I made with blueberries that we picked on our land, and then there was like a blueberry goat cheese on top of it. And so you know, as an artist too, I get really into eating it with my eyes and the appearance of it, for sure. That was an elaborate one.
So anyone who saw that photo would be like flocking to you. You know,
I love it.
And it's like, I remember when I started doing my consolidated magic food, whatever, and I was experimenting on people, if you want to call it that, and I found they were most open to the things that they could find some kind of familiarity with.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if I called it a ginger macaroon,
mm-hmm.
or raspberry, like a fruit,
mm-hmm.
something that could trigger childhood memory.
Yep.
Anytime I made something really like that I was impressed with, they weren't really like brave enough to try it. So I do think that you kind of have to, like my way now is it could be a little sneaky, but it's better, I think, to be like doing what you're doing in a way where it triggers a memory or something familiar, and they run to it rather than you have to like explain like why they should have some patchouli macaroons or something.
You know, well, we each have our unique method, and I think that like what you do, I see much more obviously as you're creating a magic potion that happens to be something that you can ingest and be nourished by. Where I'm creating a meal that is very much relates to something that you would come have in a restaurant, because I have the chef background, you know, but it also happens to be a magic potion. It's just not as obvious. It's like we're coming at it from different angles, but in a lot of ways accomplishing the same work. That's what I see.
Exactly.
How fun. Well, let's see, I'm gonna finish up this video in just a moment. And is there anything else that feels important to you that you want to make sure that we get into this recording while we're here?
Well, I guess just, you know, for people who are feeling that need to go in that direction, you know, it does happen in its own time. It does come full circle. So, you know, don't be like frantic or, you know, or beat yourself up if you don't know this herb or that. One thing that drives me crazy when someone says, really, you don't know that plant, or you know, don't let anyone ever say that to you, like, really, you don't know that, because none of us know everything. And I know like a lot of plants, but there's always another plant I don't know. So
Absolutely.
you know, it's a journey. And I do have the fairy school, so like in the school, it's a place where questions can be asked, and the journey, there's no rush in the journey, and we do kind of go and talk about the childhood, and we're very like eager to help other children, because children are so in tune with this, and then they get they get sidetracked and then have to come back like I did. So we do focus a lot on being sort of role models for children, like we would have wanted for children.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not sure what else to say. It's just really fun, you know, getting, you know, finding we have so much in common as well, and I guess support us, you know, support Amber and I with, you know, we're full-time Renaissance alchemists. This is, you know, we could compromise, we could do other things, but we wouldn't be following our heart and our soul purpose. So so it can be sometimes, you know, scary to follow your heart and your dreams, but then you know, like that's what you're just born to do, and you don't really have any other choice. And so the universe always provides. So yeah, for the people watching, just you know, thanks for watching, and support us, follow your dreams as well, and find your own highest purpose, and then don't be afraid to do it.
And my thank you so much, Sorrel, and my hope for this video too is that kind of somewhat reiterating what Sorrel just said, but my hope is that this can be an inspiration for you to find the magic in nourishment, and to seek out nourishment that is magical, and to recognize that there's so much more going on than just the food, like the physical element. And at the same time, the ingredients that we put in and the quality of those ingredients, and those ingredients not being full of crap, it does matter. It matters. However, what also matters really big is the energy that is going into the preparation and the intent behind that energy. And that's where our food can really become magic. And I love that Sorrel and I, even though we do things in our own unique ways, and like I said before, we come at it from different ends of the spectrum in certain ways in terms of the nourishment we create, we are both consciously creating magic in the food that we create and share. And that common thread is so beautiful, and something I want to inspire you to hone in your own way and to seek out, when you're going out, even looking for food in the world and where you're going to eat it and where you're going to buy it, think about the energy and the intent that goes into it, and the people who are creating it. And I'm very, very grateful for you joining us and witnessing us in this conversation that we're having together. I had no idea what was going to become of it, and it's been really, really magical. I didn't know until now that Sorrel and I have so many common threads in our life experience, but it makes perfect sense. And yeah. Thank you, Sorrel. Thank you for doing this with me. This is some fierce magic and fun play, and I'm really grateful to have shared this time with you today.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Oh, and one last thing before we go. I know Sorrel mentioned her fairy priestess school. I have something that I'm going to be sharing very soon that I'm working on. It's called Chakrarti, and it is creative expression meets soul medicine. And so it is utilizing our creative expression, be it cooking, be it singing, be it writing, be it painting, as a means to tap into our soul medicine and birth our fierce magic into the world. And the details for that will be coming out soon. It's not an offering that's available yet, but it's something that I have stewing in my pot. So I just wanted to make sure and mention it before I go. All right.
Yeah, definitely follow both of us, because we're constantly channeling stuff and bringing new things, birthing new projects, and that in itself is fun and an adventure to just even follow us every day. We come up with something.
I have fun following you, Sorrel. Yes. We have fun following each other as well. So we would love for you to follow us.
I remember the post you said.
Say that again.
Remember the post you said I said the post the other day when you said that you had the privacy setting to only you. I've done that before.
Oh, yes.
Make this big, huge.
Oh, yes, I've done that.
Mm-hmm. Inspiration. Yeah. Well, it's been fun.
It's been a lot of fun. We should do this again sometime. All right. Bye for now, everyone.